is with congruence in right triangles. This goes with Learning Target 6, and we're looking at just right triangles. So you should have your notes out. This should be the packet of notes I copied for you, or your math notebook. We are not going to review systems of linear equations. That is going to be with honors. And we're going to skip a few slides. We're going to add to the goldenrod sheet right now. We're going to add Theorem 4.6, Hypotenuse-leg theorem. It says, if the hypotenuse and a leg of one right triangle, so we have a right triangle, we have the hypotenuse and a leg, they're congruent to another right triangle's hypotenuse and leg, then we can say the triangles are congruent. This, as you can see, is angle side side, angle side side. And we know that ASS is not a way to prove triangles congruent. This is a special case. This is a case where we have two right triangles. And when they are right triangles and you have both hypotenuses congruent and both legs congruent, then you can say that the two triangles are congruent. So pause this movie, add this to your goldenrod sheet, then press play when you are finished. All right, we're going to do a few proofs, and then I'll let you practice this. I'm going to skip through this one. I'm going to remind you that the conditions for this HL theorem, the hypotenuse-leg theorem, and you can just call it HL theorem, that's fine. The conditions are that there are two right triangles. It only works for right triangles. The two triangles have congruent hypotenuses, and that there's just one pair of congruent legs. When those occur, you can say triangles congruent. So it's as if we're adding another shortcut to our poster that's on the front board. We have those four, and in addition, we have the HL theorem that only works for right triangles. Let's look at the HL theorem here. We have that on a basketball bracket, so in the back of the basketball hoop, you can see right here the triangle that's formed. That triangle is highlighted right here with triangle ABC. We have point D here. What we know is that this is a right angle and that these two sides are congruent. Knowing that, is it enough to say that these two triangles, 1 and 2, are congruent? And it is enough because we have DC congruent to DC by reflexive property. So in both of these triangles, 1 and 2, I have the hypotenuses congruent, which are the two sides that are indicated as congruent here, and I have the legs congruent. So by hypotenuse leg, I have the two triangles congruent. And it works because both these triangles are right triangles. So a more detailed explanation is written down here. And you can say, yes, the triangle is congruent by the HL theorem, hypotenuse-leg theorem. Let's look at another proof. Well, that was an example. Let's look at a proof. Let's take this guy. We have these two triangles, and we've got angle PRS and RPQ are right angles. As soon as you see right angles, you want to think, can I use hypotenuse leg in this problem? We've got here, these two are given, SP congruent to QR. Those are our hypotenuses. So in our given, we have all of these markings, these two, and we have the right triangles. Next, we can say PR is congruent to PR. by reflexive property. Anything is congruent to itself. So do we have enough to say these two triangles are congruent? And we do. We've got hypotenuse leg. So you can see the hypotenuses are congruent and the legs are congruent. Therefore, the two triangles are congruent. So please add this to your notes. Add this example. Pause the movie to add it, and then press play when you are finished. All right. Let's look at another proof. Disregard these red markings here. BE bisects AD at point C, and we know AB is perpendicular to BC, and DE is perpendicular to EC, and we know AB is congruent to DE. Are the triangles congruent? Well, first we'll write the given. Then, we've got these two congruent. We've got right triangles, so we might want to think hypotenuse leg. And what AB and DE are is they are two legs of these two right triangles. So what I would need is to get the hypotenuses congruent. And in this case, we can say that the hypotenuses are congruent because BE bisects AD at C. And when you bisect, you cut in half. So our next statement can be that AC is congruent to DC by definition of bisecting, because it says that BE bisected AD, it cut it in half, making AC congruent to DC by definition of bisecting. So now we've got two triangles where the hypotenuses are congruent and the legs are congruent. We want to state that because these are perpendicular here and here, that tells me they're going to hit at a right angle. So you can either say angle B and angle E are right angles, or you can say that they are 90 degrees by definition of perpendicular. That's what this symbol means, perpendicular. So we say that these are 90 degrees, or we can say that they are right angles by definition of perpendicular. Then the two triangles will be congruent by the Hl theorem. So pause the movie, add this to your notes, press play when you are finished. Okay, it really is that simple, where you're just basically taking an example, seeing if you have your right triangles, and then making sure that the hypotenuses and the legs are congruent. One set of legs and the hypotenuse, and then triangles congruent. Okay, try this one on your own and press play when you are finished. All right, we're given CD is congruent to EA. We're also given that AD is the perpendicular bisector of CE. Perpendicular means I'm going to get 90-degree angles. So in your proof, you're going to want to state that you get 90-degree angles. You're also going to want to state that CB is congruent to EB. Because it bisects, it's going to cut it in half, making CB congruent to BE. Whoops. So your proof will look like it's given AD is the perpendicular bisector of CE. So triangle CBD and EBA are right triangles. You will get right angles when they're perpendicular. And CB congruent to EB by the definition of perpendicular bisector. These guys will both be right angles. Also, CD is congruent to EA given, so these two triangles will be congruent by the Hl theorem. And that is the end of the movie. I would like you to stop the movie now, and you are going to work on your homework for Learning Target 6. Do those problems that are listed on the board, and then